there were a lot of expectations across print and digital media as to what would really happen. And with some kind of rapt attention, people are looking at massive revenue mobilization exercises and conservative spending to keep the deficit in control. What turned out was a historical budget where the finance minister has completely opened up the government's purses in terms of spending. And the objective is clearly to give a fillip to the economy, to government spending, whether in terms of allocation or in terms of targeted spending or in terms of massive infrastructure push and things like that. At the same time, the resource mobilization exercise has been kind of tame, and no fresh taxes, no inheritance taxes, or no corona cess of that was as it was called, or assumed to be called. But there are some significant changes in the tax front, and I'll try to give you a few of them, though I've not spent that much of time going into the depth into the budget. One is this new development called as the Agricultural Infrastructure Development cess in the customs front, as well as excisable goods for petroleum and diesel. So that AIDC is a levy that comes into force from tomorrow, that is 2nd February. If you look at it carefully, most of the items which are covered there seem to be imported food material. So whether it is peas, or whether it is kabuli chana, or whether it is apples, or whether it is spirits, they've carefully chosen these items, and probably there is some kind of Atmanirbhar touch there too in attempting to impose an AIDC. The second significant amendment as far as customs is concerned is that we're probably moving towards a portal of probably one portal like the GSTN we will probably have in customs, which will be the end all as far as customs is concerned, including service of notice and things like that. We'll have to see how it goes, because our experience with portals has not been great with GSTN, and the GSTN had its own big issues, and MCA is still struggling as far as company law is concerned. So whether it is a good idea to put everything into a portal and then allow these technical glitches to happen is something the government has to carefully consider, or the learnings from all these portals, whether something else will also be a key thing. The GST has also had its share of amendments. Most of you would have seen the celebrated decision of the Supreme Court, the case of Calcutta Club, where the Supreme Court held that mutuality is relevant even after the 46th Amendment, and a club or an association cannot be subjected to service tax or VAT for that matter. And based on the Calcutta Club principles, a lot of views were floating around the effect that the same logic would apply in GST. And in GST also, there are no two persons. In the case of mutuality, you need, since mutuality involves only one club and one member, the member in the club being the same, there cannot be any kind of a levy of tax, even under the GST regime. And there were a couple of AR rulings also in favor of the SSC to say that it is not taxable. Obviously, the government has read those rulings, probably decided to nullify those rulings. So there you see a retrospective amendment. I'm not able to understand these retrospective amendments, despite the Vodafone story, despite the Kane matter, where we are struggling in terms of the fallout, the international outcry on retrospective amendments. We still seem to persist with this theory that we should continuously and on a routine manner amend the law, and that with retrospective effect and nullify decisions. It's not a good sign at all. It's not a good thing to do at all. Despite these two major arbitration awards, we still pursuing this retrospective amendment. It's not at all a good development. Anyway, they've done that, but whether this amendment to Section 7.1 would survive the litigation that is going to follow, because if you look at the Calcutta Club judgment, a view was expressed despite the amendment to the Constitution provisions, as well as despite the amendment to the scale definition. We'll have to see how this amendment plays around. There are some more amendments in the context of ITC. I'm not taking them for want of time, but one important amendment which I want to talk about is in the context of exports, where Section 16 is now being kind of brought in, reined in, so to say, and in a way whereby the government may choose who who are eligible to pay IGST on exports and get back that money. The fundamental philosophy is that exports should not be taxed. If that is the philosophy and taxes should not be exported, I don't see any reason why they should make a distinction between certain types of assessees and or amongst assessees and say that certain assessees will qualify for making payment of IGST on exports and get back their refund while others may not. The justification doesn't seem correct. The levy of IGST on exports itself is questionable. Having imposed IGST on exports, the refund should be automatic of trying to find out methodologies to limit the scope of the recipients of such refund. Then as far as the direct tax front is concerned, a lot of expectations were there that the basic exemption would be significantly increased to put cash in the hands of the individual so that consumption can increase and the economy can grow. And but nothing of that sort happened. No tinkering with the tax rates, no tinkering with the exemptions, nothing of any significance in the personal tax front. From a business perspective, there are some impacts. The depreciation on goodwill, which was based on a series of decisions, is now no longer available. Then you have, in the context of the employee contribution, the employer paying the employee contribution. There are some, if you don't pay it by the due date, you will get permanently disallowed. Those are some of the changes from a business perspective, and some changes in the context of slump sale and the taxation in the hands of the firm when there is a dissolution of the firm. These are some of the amendments. And the last one I would like to talk about is the equalization levy. One is that the benefit in terms of section 1050 has been given from 1420. That is welcome. At the same time, the key question was what exactly is an e-commerce transaction, because the language used in the provisions was quite wide. Fortunately, the amendment does not give any kind of comfort. The amendment kind of makes it very peculiar. The sense that if one or more of a certain set of events happen, levy can get triggered, which to my mind would end up taxing even non-digital transactions. I don't think that is what the industry wanted, but that is what has happened. So we'll have to see. Anyway, there are other fallouts of that which Government of India has got its mechanisms. So in a nutshell, I would say that there are no major apple cart upsetting tax amendments. The friendlier ones, I would say, are the fact that we are moving towards a virtual IT hearing, which is excellent. And the scheme will be notified soon, but that is going to be the trend of future. All litigation is likely to become virtual, and that's a very, very logical step. We have learned a lot during the COVID lockdown period. That is a couple of my thoughts as far as the subject is concerned. Thank you.
You are getting on the litigation landscape?
No, I think they completely want to make it e-enabled, with the supreme confidence that the back-end systems are excellent and the working mechanisms has been worked out, has been sorted out within the department or within the administration mechanism. But I think there's a lot of gap. Unless and until for example, let us take a simple case of an e-appeal. You have limits on number of words that you have to use in your grounds of appeal. And the page content and size content can be a big dampener when you're on an e-hearing, where you only hope that your written submissions are properly looked into. So there are going to be issues, even though I agree that E is the way going forward. You cannot have limitations. You cannot have artificial restrictions. You cannot have a personal hearing only on under certain circumstances. Things have to
change. Sir, in one line, sir. Do you anticipate, as one of my good friends Amay tweeted, that there will be a constitutional challenge to faceless IT-80? You think there could be a constitutional challenge here?
If natural justice is violated, there can always be a challenge, because the principles of natural justice can never be given a go by, even for a hearing. What I did talk about before you came in was that we are heading for a massive portal in customs, which would be the end all in customs. I was just sharing my thoughts, saying that we should not do the same thing what we're doing in GST and end up in glitches.
Thanks so much, sir. Thanks so much for your comments. Thank you.
Yeah.